on Back, the latest offering from them. It's now 16 minutes past 9 here on the Radio Wammo Breakfast.
My name's Stephen. I'm a junior, and my question's for Will McAvoy.
As a news anchor, you've almost religiously avoided stating a political allegiance. The Jay Leno of news anchors. You're popular because you don't bother anyone. How do you feel about that? Are you willing to say whether you lean right or left?
Can you say why America is the greatest country in the world?
I'm not letting you go back to the airport without answering the question. I want a human moment from you. Why is America
not the greatest country in the world, Professor? That's my answer. You, sorority girl, just in case you accidentally wander into a voting booth one day, there's some things you should know. We're 7th in literacy, 22nd in science, 49th in life expectancy, 178th in infant mortality, 3rd in median household income, number 4 in labor force, and number 4 in exports. Now, none of this is the fault of a 20-year-old college student, but when you ask what makes us the greatest country in the world, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Yosemite?
I let that roll because I love this new trailer. It's something called the Newsroom that is going to be kicking off on HBO. We'll talk about that more shortly with Chris Philpott at stuff.co.nz. It's on the box on the radio. Chris, good morning.
How are you, mate?
Very well, thanks. First up, some news, though, back here in New Zealand about the host for this new New Zealand's Got Talent show.
Yeah, well, New Zealand's Got Talent, maybe the worst idea on television since Keeping Up with the Ridges, which now we know isn't going to happen. But yeah, Tamati Coffey, the weatherman on Breakfast, has been announced as the host of TV1's new production of New Zealand's Got Talent. Of course, the Got Talent franchise, another one of these, talent contest, audition in front of a big crowd, get voted down by the judges, franchises along the lines of American Idol and The Voice and The X Factor and that kind of thing. Except that Got Talent is probably the least popular of all of the franchises in this country, at least. This really seems to me, developing Got Talent for me is really one of the worst decisions I think TVNZ could possibly make.
Really?
Because, well, I think so. First off, I think putting it on one is a mistake because talent shows typically will draw in a teen audience. Teens aren't watching TV1 for a start. The second thing is we've tried Got Talent in this country before. It was on Prime and it failed miserably.
We found we had no talent?
Season.
There's no talent.
Well, we found we had no talent. And then third, of course, it's now infamous, the 3 seasons of New Zealand Idol, which was so bad that it didn't even get renewed, even as the American version was increasing ratings every year here in New Zealand. The New Zealand Idol collapsed, and then the winner of the 3rd season, I think he got arrested at Sky City Casino.
Do you think we've finally reached the end of the cycle of these kinds of shows?
I don't know if we've reached the end of the cycle. I think we're scraping the bottom, and now we're going to try and dig through and find something even worse. I asked my readers on Monday if they could name a worse idea for a TV show than this, and people were writing in saying this is impossible. You can't come up with a worse idea than this. But we're definitely at the bottom of the barrel, I think. But I don't think we're at the end of the cycle. As long as the Idols and the Master Chefs and the Next Top Models and Biggest Losers are rating highly in this country, I think New Zealand TV will always be looking to try and create a local version of that. We saw it with even World's Strictest Parents, which did well. The US version did well here, so we made a New Zealand version, and I mean, it was horrible. It really was a horrible show. So I mean, New Zealand TV, with the way the funding works, it's so limited. I think we have to look at producing local versions of already successful franchises, and that will continue for the foreseeable future, I think, sadly. As sad as it is to say, kind of a sobering thought there.
Okay, onto that trailer that we just started off with, the Newsroom. It's just been revealed. It's out there on YouTube. Go and check it out. Tell us about it.
Well, it's a new show from Aaron Sorkin, of course, who's the creator and writer of The West Wing, one of the most critically acclaimed shows of all time. He also was the writer of A Few Good Men and The Social Network more recently. The show, it stars Jeff Daniels as Will McAvoy, who's a cable news show host who kind of undergoes a crisis of identity. We see him in that trailer that you played. You hear him kind of snapping at in a live audience saying, I don't know what I believe anymore. Or, he's kind of out on a limb, putting himself out there with a stronger opinion than he's had. The show that he anchors is kind of this middle of the road. It doesn't lean left or right. It just kind of rides the middle to try and catch the most audience. And I think the show is kind of built around this idea that he's tired of trying to please everybody and just wants to be himself now. The show co-stars Emily Mortimer, who's a really good British actress, and Sam Waterston, Dev Patel, who was the lead in Slumdog Millionaire a few years ago.
Right.
And it's being directed by Greg Mottola, who directed multiple episodes of Arrested Development. And he also directed Superbad, which is a comedy movie with Michael Cera and Jonah Hill from a few years ago. So it's an interesting mix of talent that they've put together for this one. And you wonder what the tone of the show will be like. With Aaron Sorkin at the helm, you know it's going to be kind of cutting social commentary.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. And it premieres in the US on June 24. Soho have already promised that they'll have it only a couple of weeks behind that. So
Okay, cool.
we'll look forward to that one.
Well, that'll probably feature in our next segment, what we shouldn't or should be watching, because it is coming a lot sooner than it usually does because of the Soho channel. Game of Thrones Season 2 premiered in the States this week.
Yeah, well, it started in the States Sunday night their time, Monday afternoon our time, and we had it on iSky.co.nz on Tuesday morning. I think the people at Soho put it up online for any Soho subscribers to check out the very first episode. Of course, it's premiering here in New Zealand on Monday, April 16th, 8:30 p.m, only a week behind the US it will be at that point, so it's interesting. But no, the first episode started on Sunday to kind of universal critical acclaim. I think it's rating 90 out of 100 over at Metacritic. Every review I've read has basically said how wonderful it is, and it is wonderful. And viewers have kind of come in droves as well. It rated, I think it got up to 4.2 million on Sunday viewers on HBO, which is kind of True Blood-esque numbers, and made it top the cable ratings for Sunday night as well. It beat out the likes of Mad Men and The Killing and a whole host of other shows. X-Men, I think, was on the cable ratings top 10 list.
Wow.
So, you know, which I guess has some similarities to Game of Thrones in that there are axes involved. But no, Game of Thrones, the first episode really is fantastic. We pick up the action shortly after where the first season left off, and we just kind of spend a bit of time with everybody. We find Joffrey has kind of asserted himself in King's Landing as the new king. And if you wanted to punch him in the face during the first season, I can promise you that you'll want to do much worse to him this year.
No doubt.
There's a couple of really good scenes particularly between him and Sansa Stark, who of course is Ned Stark's daughter, who's stuck in King's Landing against her will, and then another between Joffrey and his mother Cersei, which is really interesting and tells a lot about, I think, the direction of both of their characters going forward. We kind of spend time with everybody. We're over with Daenerys Targaryen and her 3 little dragons as they're trying to figure out what to do next, and we find Jon Snow up above the wall. He's out and wandering with all the people from the Night's Watch. And we meet some new characters as well. Stannis Baratheon is probably the biggest addition this season. Stannis is the former King Robert Baratheon's brother, who is now making a play to try and take the throne for himself as well. And that's really interesting. Really good piece of casting with Stephen Delane there. Carice Van Houten plays a priestess who is with him, and he's got Liam Cunningham, who's a really good British actor as well, playing his kind of offsider, Sir Davos Seaworth. No, it's a really good start and very exciting. And definitely, if you're subscribed to Soho, I would highly recommend jumping on iSky and having a look at it now.
Good. I can't wait to get a look into it. On iSky, is it in HD though?
No.
No, it won't be in HD.
That's the only problem. It's fairly low resolution on iSky, but I think the show's so good that you could just watch it and then watch it again later.
True.
When it hits Soho anyway. So I'll be watching it again when it hits on the broadcast channel.
I will be trying to avoid as many spoilers as I can in the meantime. What is coming up on TV this week?
Well, there's not actually too many new shows. I think I've suggested maybe New Girl would be one to start checking out again. It's on Tuesdays on 8 p.m. Of course, Zoe Deschanel's little sitcom that she's got there. It went through a bit of a funk after a really good first episode, but it's started really hitting its stride now. It's been super entertaining for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and definitely something that I would recommend everybody check out. A new show next Tuesday, starting shortly after New Girl, is I Just Want My Pants Back, is the name of the show. It starts on Tuesday on 4 at 9:30 p.m. It's a new comedy about a group of 20-somethings in Brooklyn. The pilot, though, directed by Doug Liman, who directed Swingers back in the mid-90s, a really good cult film, and he also directed The Bourne Identity. So it could be something worth checking out. It's been recommended to me by a couple of friends, so I'll be looking into that one. And of course, Castle, one of the best procedurals on TV. Castle, starring Nathan Fillion and Stana Katic, starts back next Wednesday on 1 at 8:30 p.m. Not tonight, but next Wednesday. And that'll be picking up from the season 3 cliffhanger, I think, picking up and showing us what happens from there.
Cool. Very, very cool. Well, if you want to find out more about some of the stuff that he's been talking about, you can find the blog up at stuff.co.nz. It's called On The Box in the entertainment section there. Also, Chris Philpott NZ on Twitter. Chris Philpott will be back with us next week. Thanks very much.
No worries.